Hamas has agreed to a ceasefire proposal. Israel is yet to respond. As we wait for a breakthrough, we want to talk about the tiny Gulf country in the middle of it. Qatar has donned the cap of a mediator for a really long time, from Afghanistan, Iran, and now Gaza. What makes Qatar the world's peacemaker? Is it geography or deep pockets? And does the role come with baggage? I'm Ananya Datta. You're watching Grey Zone. Qatar is an unusual country for mostly good things. It is tiny, even smaller than the Chinese capital of Beijing. It has a population of just 3 million people, 99% of which lives in Doha, and only 13% of them are actually Qataris. The rest of them are migrant workers from around the world. So how did a country with such a unique story become the world's unofficial negotiating table? Because what choice do you have when you sit with abundant riches in a volatile region? Let's talk about the riches first. Qatar's wealth flows from a single jackpot, the North Field, the largest natural gas field on the planet, which it shares with Iran. We'll come to that in a bit. This geographical fluke makes it the world's richest state per capita. But that wealth came with a curse. Gas made Qatar indispensable to world energy markets, but it also tied its fate to powerful neighbors. In the south is Saudi Arabia, the only land lifeline, but also its biggest rival, capable of blockading or isolating Qatar overnight. In the southeast is UAE, a fierce competitor that sees Qatar's independent diplomacy as a threat to its own influence. And in the north is Iran, a partner who shares gas riches, but also a source of suspicion that could drag Qatar into regional crossfire, as it has in the recent past. Experts have referred to Qatar as a rich man with a poor man's mindset, because wealth alone cannot buy security, not when you live in the most militarized and unpredictable region on earth. So Qatar's leaders built a survival strategy, neutral diplomacy. If you scan through recent history, you'll notice one address that keeps showing up in moments of crisis: Doha. From Lebanon to Darfur, from Chad to Somalia, Qatar has positioned itself as the world's unofficial conflict mediator. But 4 specific episodes in particular define its clout. For nearly 2 decades, America's longest war dragged on in Afghanistan. The US couldn't cut a deal in Kabul or Islamabad, so it turned to Doha. After months of talks at luxury hotels in Qatar, the Doha Agreement was signed, paving the way for America's withdrawal. It wasn't peace, but it was the beginning of the end game, and it put Qatar firmly at the heart of great power negotiations. Decades of hostility meant Washington and Tehran couldn't even sit in the same room. So once again, Doha stepped in. Qatar facilitated a prisoner exchange while unfreezing $6 billion of Iranian funds. For the West, it was a breakthrough. For Iran, it was lifeline money. And for Qatar, it was proof that it could talk to enemies who refused to talk to each other. When Moscow and Kiev were too busy fighting to speak, Qatar quietly brokered humanitarian gestures, including the return of Ukrainian children taken to Russia during the war. Small in scale, but huge in symbolism. If even Moscow trusts Doha to handle such a sensitive issue, it shows how far Qatar's neutrality has traveled. And then, perhaps the hardest balancing act of all, Qatar hosts Hamas leaders in exile, but is also a trusted partner of Washington. That dual role allowed it to negotiate repeated temporary ceasefires and hostage releases during the Israel-Gaza conflict. Now, punching above its weight sometimes comes with a blowback. When Israel launched a volley of missiles towards Tehran in mid-June this year, regional tensions spiked sharply. In response, the US President Donald Trump urgently called Qatar's emir in hopes of persuading Iran to negotiate. Now, Qatar, with deep ties to both Iran and the US, was suddenly at the heart of a looming existential crisis. For Doha, the war wasn't theoretical, it could become literal if the conflict escalated. The situation grew even more alarming on June 23rd, when Iran launched missiles at Al Udeid Air Base, home to 10,000 US troops stationed on Qatari soil. It marked the first time modern Qatar had come under direct attack. Yet, the strike had been orchestrated very carefully. Iran informed the US beforehand. The US warned Qatar, and Doha closed its airspace in anticipation. 14 missiles were launched, all but one were intercepted, and the lone survivor caused no casualties. Qatar took one for the team and urged for dialogue, even as its own skies had trembled moments before. The power of Qatar has come to surprise many of us. As a conservative Muslim monarchy in the Middle East, Qatar is a new kind of location for the sort of high-stakes geopolitical deal-making. So while other world leaders demand a Nobel Peace Prize for ending wars, Qatar quietly does what it does best. I'm Ananya Datta. Thanks for watching Grey Zone.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.